Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session. I'm Piyush and I hope you all can hear me clearly. So warm welcome to this session on how to prepare for data insights. So I'm just creating a poll. If you guys can hear me loud and clear, I would request you to respond to this poll. That way I will get to know if all of you can hear me loud and clear or not. Okay, so if you can hear me well enough, just say yes to this poll, and in the meantime I'll also get the screen shared. So you should be able to see the screen now, and I see almost everyone saying that I can hear you clearly. So that's great, guys. Thank you so much for the responses. I know most of you are excited about the session today. Data Insights is the new section which GMAT has introduced on GMAT Focus. So I totally understand that many of you are excited, and we are going to learn a lot of things around how to prepare for it. Again, the objective of this session is not to teach you individual topics in data insights, because obviously that will take a lot of time. We cannot do that in a single session. What the session is going to be focused around the strategy, what data insights is really about, how should you go about preparing it in a step-by-step fashion. So I hope all of you are excited to know about that, how to prepare for the data insights section in the best possible way. If you're excited, do say a yes in this poll. I would love to see your responses, guys. So if you're really excited to know about how to prepare for GMAT Focus Edition Data Insights, do let me know. In the meantime, I'll have a quick introduction about myself. I'm Piyush Veriwala. I have 10 years of experience mentoring students targeting top B schools across the globe. So you name a B school in the world, whether it's Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, MIT, INSEAD, LBS, you name a business school in the world, and I've sent students to those business schools. So I have vast experience in helping people get into top business schools. I have myself taken the GMAT and CAT both. CAT is a Indian test for Indian MBAs. Basically, if you're a young professional, you take the test basically, and I've scored a 740, which on the GMAT Classic, which will be a equivalent of around 705 or something in GMAT Focus Edition, and a 99.9 percentile on CAT. And personally, I love analyzing trends and data to come up with strategies. I have been a tutor as well. I have taught students for both quant as well as verbal. And yeah, as part of a CAT teacher, I've also taught students for data interpretation, is that what they call it in CAT, and that's definitely a much more difficult version compared to what data insights tests you on. Okay, so that was a brief intro about myself. If you want to talk about yourself, feel free to type it in the chat. See, I love to interact, guys. So if you have any thoughts, any questions, don't wait for it. Just put it in the chat. I'm very, very happy to answer your questions. Okay, so let's get started with this session basically. All right, now Focus Edition. Now, a lot of you know that this is the new edition of the test. This is going to be the only edition which is being offered now. Now, what is the Focus Edition really about? So it has 3 sections basically in terms of, if I talk about the testing. And it's a very short test in the sense that you can pretty much wrap up the entire test in close to 2 hours. It's around 2 hour, 15-minute long test. You have quantitative reasoning, which tests you on your math skills, if you want to kind of call it in a very raw way. Verbal reasoning, which tests you on your English skills, or I would say comprehending skills also, in a way, like how well can you comprehend and reason in English. That's basically, just mind the H here. Yeah, that's basically the skill which is being tested. Now, what is this data insights all about? Now, a lot of people think, okay, this is about data. It's about reading charts, reading trends, and reading graphs. Yeah, it is about that. But I would go to the extent of saying that data insights is nothing but a mix of these 2 areas and a bit of ability of reading data or reading charts. Like if you combine the skills that you learn in quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning together, along with the ability to read data or read charts or read tables, that's all you need to kind of ace the data insight section. So what makes GMAT Focus really, really interesting is that majority of the work with respect to preparation for GMAT Focus should be concentrated on these 2 areas. I would go to the extent of saying that 80% of your prep time should be focused on quant and verbal reasoning. It should not be a linear thing. Like you should not prepare for all 3 sections equally, like 33% for each of them. No, that's not technically required. About 80% of your effort should go on this, and about 20% of your effort should be on data insights. Now, I totally understand that you might have your own strengths and weaknesses, so there might be a slight change in distribution needed, but more or less, this is what the distribution should be with respect to your time commitment. Now, let me ask a question. How many of you before the session were thinking of giving equal time to all three areas? How many of you were thinking about giving equal time to all three areas, quant, verbal, and data insights? Say a yes if you were thinking before the session, joining this session, you were thinking of giving equal attention to all three areas. Say a yes. If you were not, then say a no. And again, just a general question. Just want to hear it out from you guys. What were you guys thinking about before the session? Okay. Interesting. All right. So I see around 62% of you saying that I was planning to give equal time to all three areas, and 37% of you saying that no, I was not planning to give equal time. Now, see how interesting it is. 62% of you were thinking in the wrong direction in a way, because you technically don't need to give equal time, and if you are giving equal time, you're making a very, very big mistake. And I'll prove that to you. I don't want to just make claims that way, and I don't want you to buy my answers or my recommendations just because I am saying it. I'll prove that to you. The reason why I say so is because, again, data insights is more or less these two areas combined, and we will be doing a lot of questions of data insights today. I'll be showing you a lot of things to help you understand that better, basically. So it does make sense for you to give a lot more focus on these two areas, and I would say a much more focus on quantitative reasoning as well. Again, it does definitely depends on your capability as well. If you're very, very strong in quant and with data, you might as well give most of your time to verbal reasoning. But even in that case, as I said, 80% of your time has to go on these two areas. So it's possible that out of this 80%, you are spending about, let's say, 55% over here, 25% over here. That's fine. That's okay. That definitely makes sense. But don't give equal attention to all three is what my recommendation is for most people. Now, obviously, for personalized advice, if you want personalized advice, one-on-one advice about how you should go about doing it, then you can always have a one-on-one discussion with me. I'm also going to give you the link to have a one-on-one discussion with me in the chat here, so you guys can use that at any point of time. I've shared that with you, but generally this is the best way to go forward. Now, let's move forward. Let's also understand, and I'm getting a sense of this from your answers, because most of you were thinking, around 62% of you were thinking that we should give equal time to all three sections. What that means is you probably do not understand data insights well. So let's start with a quiz, very small quiz, 2 small questions, and we'll understand what level of understanding you have about data insights. So is data insights something new? Like, I have simple 2 questions in front of you, yes or no. Is data insights something new, or was it something which was already there on the GMAT Classic? That's my question, basically. So what do you think about it? Like, I'll just give you a poll, guys. That will make your life easy. So you have this poll. Do you think data insights is altogether something new that GMAT has created, or was it already there on GMAT Classic? If you think it is something new that GMAT has created, say a yes. If you think it was already there on GMAT Classic, say a no. And again, a lot of you might be misguided because of the marketing that GMAT did around it. I understand they have to market it as a new product. But is data insights something new? That's a very important question. Okay, and I'm really, really happy with the answers that I'm getting here. Yes, data insights is nothing new. Most people think it is. Many people, not most people. Today, at least, I would say only 9% of you think that way, but that's really, really great. I generally see most people coming to me and saying, you know, Piyush, I saw that data insights is something new with GMAT hasn't. It's not. It's simply integrated reasoning and data sufficiency questions of quant combined together. Now, in general, we see about 60 to 70% questions of data insights coming from integrated reasoning, and about 30 to 40% questions coming from data sufficiency. Now, that also tells you that even in data insights, 30 to 40% is directly quant, right? It's direct quant, because it's like data sufficiency, which is tested in quant. So definitely you should not be giving equal amount of time to data insights as you are giving to quant. Definitely it should not be. So for all practical purposes, if you have prepared for quant properly, after that, you just have to prepare for integrated reasoning. And I would recommend, and please mind my words, this is very, very important, guys. I would recommend strongly that you should prepare for PS and DS questions together. you should prepare for PS and DS questions together when you're preparing for quant. You should not just prepare for PS questions, because I understand in quant section they're only testing you on PS, but I would recommend you prepare on DS as well alongside PS, because in DS also you will be tested on similar concepts that you're tested in quant. So it's better to do the preparation at the same time. So if you're preparing for GMAT, data insights, divide data insights. Don't think of data insights as one entity. Think of data insights as integrated reasoning plus data sufficiency. And this data sufficiency is something you should do along with quant. Okay, so that is how you need to break the thought process down in your mind. Is this point clear to all of you? Quick yes, no, guys. I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but I want to make sure that you are understanding every bit of it. Yazad, the link for discussion with me is already there just before above your comment, and it's also pinned in the chat, so you can use that. I am assuming you're asking for that. Okay, so is this clear to all of you guys? Quick yes, no, guys. I just want to make sure that everyone is clear about this. I see most of you saying yes. I see one person maybe or two person saying no. So if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask. But what I meant was, I'm just quickly repeating it, that you should not look at data insights as data insights. You should look at data insights as data integrated reasoning and data sufficiency questions together. Okay. Now, data sufficiency questions should be basically done with quant itself, and integrated reasoning is something which you should do data. Okay, Yazad, I've shared the link once again. It's pinned. I can see that it's pinned, but it's possible that you are not very familiar with the platform. That's why you might be feeling it, but that's okay. You have the link. You can start with it. Now, the next question, guys, very quickly. Does integrated reasoning require a lot of prep? Let's understand that as well. Let's ask this question as well. Does integrated reasoning require a lot of prep? I'm not saying does it require preparation. It obviously does require preparation, but does it require a lot of preparation is the question. What do you think, guys? Yes, no, quickly. Okay. Let's see what your responses are. I'll wait for a few more seconds maybe. And yeah, the answer to this question will pretty much sum up a lot of things that that you might be curious about. But you still have a lot of parts in the session where we will understand why am I coming to this particular answer, which I'm going to come to next. Okay, so I'll tell you with data, with proper analysis, why the answer is the answer that I am sharing. So yes, I agree. Most of you are saying 80% of you are saying no. Exactly. Data integrated reasoning, even integrated reasoning part does not require a lot of preparation when there is a condition, guys. It's not like, okay, the answer is no. It's not outright no, but it's no with certain qualifications. Okay, what is the qualification? You have to be well prepared on quantitative reasoning, critical reasoning, and reading comprehension, which is pretty much the other two areas. So if you're well prepared for quant and verbal both, that's when you can say, okay, yeah, I am good to go, and I can just spend a little bit time on integrated reasoning, and that should be sufficient. I would say in many cases, I just told you a little while earlier that quant plus verbal should be 80% of your preparation, and DI should be 20% of your preparation. In some cases, I would even go to the extent of saying that this ratio could be 90% and 10% also, because of the kind of questions which are tested within integrated reasoning. And we're going to see that right away. Okay, we're going to see that right away. So let's understand what are the prerequisites for integrated reasoning. Now, in integrated reasoning, the kind of skill, I'll broadly break the preparation for integrated reasoning down into two parts for you guys. Okay, so think of it this way, that one understanding that you require in integrated reasoning is topics, or you can call it concepts. Okay, you need to understand certain concepts. What are the concepts that I'm talking about? Okay, let's draw a fine line between the two. So in integrated reasoning questions, you will be tested on the concepts of averages, you will be tested on the concepts of percentages, profit and loss, equations. You might have to understand equations, solve equations. You might have some to understand basic understanding of speed, distance, work rate, time, probability, or other areas of statistics. Now, can anyone tell me, like, all these things, where do you learn all these things? Where do you learn all these things? Can anyone tell me that in chat? Which part tests these skills rather more in depth? So we are still talking about integrated reasoning or DI, you can call it that way. But in which section of GMAT these skills are tested more in depth? Yes, Aditi has the right answer. These are all quantitative concepts, right? These are all quant concepts. In fact, in quant, you would be tested much more in depth on all these areas than you would ever be tested on IR. So IR is testing your basic understanding. Even if you have a very basic level of understanding of these topics, concepts, that's good enough for you for IR, right? So you don't need to learn any other different concept for IR. Think of it that way. Now that brings us to the next thing, which is the skill set angle. Okay, what are the skill sets that are needed? Number one skill set, translation. Like, can you translate the information which is given, like the verbal information which is given, into a mathematical information which is required, like an equation or something? So can you translate things from verbal to mathematical concepts? That's one thing. Deductions are needed. Deductions in the sense, can you, given two pieces of information, can you connect them and arrive at a certain conclusion or a certain inference? Can you combine two pieces of information and deduce something? Then you need to do smart calculations also. Now again, this is something which is not tested too much on quant, but you need to be smart about doing calculations. You need to be able to read charts. You need to be able to work with charts. You need to be able to work with graphs, etc. These are the skills I would say that are needed. And then you have to think critically. You have to read critically also, I would say. Okay, you have to understand what part is important. Certain keywords play a significant role, and I'll show you questions where just some small keywords will actually change the answer. So you have to be very like focused when you're reading. So if you look at skills, again, translation is a bit of both verbal and math. In fact, I would just draw a matrix here. So if I say quant verbal, and I'll do sorry, pardon me for this line, I'll just, okay, that's okay. Let's keep this line as it is. So translation requires both the skills. Deductions, I would say in most cases quant, a little bit of verbal maybe. Calculations, all of quant. Reading data, all of, in a way, quant. Critical thinking is all of verbal. So if you see these skills, out of 5 of them, 4 are dependent on your quant skills and 3 are dependent on your verbal skills. So again, the skill sets that are tested are related to, again, quant and verbal. You do not have to do a lot of you don't have to develop a lot of other skill sets. So when you're preparing for both quant and verbal, you'll get the skill sets. Reading data is probably something which, again, you don't do that much in quant. So you might have to have some bit of get some bit of acquaintance with reading data better. Now, if you are in a career like analyst or let's say investment banking, or you're in a data-oriented career, this would be a natural skill set for you. You don't need to even develop that. But if you are in a non-data related career, then you probably need to give some extra time to it. And that's why I said the AI might need 20% of your time. Okay. So what this slide tells us is the concepts and the skill sets as 2 different things that you need to ace integrated reasoning. And what we have understood is that this part is entirely quant and this part is a mix of quant plus verbal skills. So what I'm concluding from this is that if you really want to do well on integrated reasoning or the DI section, what is a prerequisite? The prerequisite is that you should have done well on both quant and verbal first. If you do not do well on quant and verbal, you will make a very big mistake. Okay. Do we have the calculator available in the DI section? Most likely yes, Aditi. I need to confirm that, but most likely yes. If it was there in IR section, it will be there here. But again, you don't need to use a lot of calculator for a lot of calculations. The calculations are pretty small and simple to do that. Okay. But again, I have to confirm that overall. But the more important thing which you have to focus on here is that quant and verbal are both required to be at a good level. So don't make this rookie mistake of starting with data insights. Don't start your preparation with data insights. Data insights should be done at the end. Now let's get deeper into the data insights section. So what are the 4 type of questions? Again, I'm using data insights when I'm talking more about IR because data sufficiency is more of quant. So again, that we will cover in a separate session for data sufficiency, basically. But yeah, let's talk about the 4 question types of IR. So first is 2-part analysis. Second is table analysis. Third is data graphical interpretation. And the fourth one is multi-source reasoning. Now, out of this four, if you look at this four, these two and number two and number three are completely quant driven. Like you can think of it this way, that there is no other skill apart from quant that you need for these two. Multi-source reasoning is more of verbal than quant, is how I would put it. Like it's more of reading comprehension than quant in that sense. Like if you are good at RCs, multi-source reasoning should be very easy for you. Okay, but there are some bit of quant skills. There might be some bit of quant skills that you might need for multi-source reasoning. Two-part analysis is both quant and verbal, more of quant than verbal, but yeah, you have some critical reasoning questions. So let's start with two-part analysis itself. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm calling two-part analysis as TPA. Okay, so there are two types of questions in two-part analysis. One is quantitative or logical questions, basically. The second part is the critical reasoning question type. Now, in the quantitative and logical questions, we are going to cover them in this session. All that you need is basically your quant skills. So again, if you're prepared for quant properly, you just need to understand how to solve a TPA question. So TPA has a different format from MCQ. MCQ is when you have to choose from A, B, C, D, and E, right? You have to pick one of them as the answer. You only need to pick one of them as the answer. In quant, that's how the format is. In TPA, you'll have a column and you'll have two columns basically, and you have multiple statements and you have to pick one from these two. Basically, that's how it works. I'll show you that as well. So that's the only difference I feel between a quantitative or a logical TPA versus, let's say, a pure quant question. On the other hand, in critical reasoning type of TPA questions, you will get easy level CR questions. So you are already learning, you should already learn these CR type of questions while preparing for CR itself. So what I'm trying to say is that for TPA also, you don't need to do separate preparation. There is no need for separate prep for this as such, because a part of it you will get to learn from quant, a part of it you will get to learn from critical reasoning. So all you need to understand is that TPA versus MCQ, what is the question type really testing on? How do you select the answers? That's all. So let's solve a TPA question. That's probably the best way to kind of learn the skill. Okay, so you have a TPA question in front of you. I want you to solve this question. Take a minute, take a couple of minutes. I'm giving you a couple of minutes, and then we will solve this question together. And please hold on to your answers. Don't post it directly in the chat here. I'll ask you to post it, only then you post it, guys. Okay, so you have 2 minutes to solve this question, and then we are going to solve it together. All the best, guys. I'm going to be on mute for the 2 minutes. Okay. All right, guys. So we have already taken 2+ minutes to solve this. If you have already solved this, please share your answers in the chat about the values of x and y. I'll start solving this question in another 30 seconds, maybe. So I'm giving you another 30 seconds. Please write down your answers in the chat here if you have already solved this. Okay, Nandita, Anirudh, thank you so much for your answers. All right, so 30 seconds are over. We are going to solve this question quickly. Okay, so you have read this question, so I'm going to read through it a little faster. But what I know is that loan X has a principal of $10,000, $10,000 X basically multiplied with X, and simple interest of 4%. Loan Y has a principal of $10,000 Y into Y. I don't know the value of Y and X, and a yearly simple interest of 8%. Loan X and Y's will be consolidated to form a loan with a principal. Obviously, the principal will be sum combined and a yearly simple interest rate of this much. Okay, now those of you who know the concept of averages and allegations, and this is something which we teach in GMAT Viz as well when you learn averages and those concepts, that if we mix two things, 4% and 8% in the ratio of X is to Y, basically the resultant is basically 4X plus 8Y by X plus Y. That's the resultant. Okay, that's something which I have even stated out loud, so you don't even need to know that concept. Okay, now they're saying that the value of R is 5, then what is the value of X and Y? Okay, now we teach this in allegations. You don't even need to solve this for the ratio of X and Y. If you want, you can solve it, but we teach it in allegations that if you are coming as consolidated average is 5, then you need to see the difference between these two, which is 1% here. You need to see the difference between these two, which is 3% here. So the actual ratio of mixing this 3% will come over here and this 1 will come over here. So the actual ratio of mixing this is 3:1. So X is to Y is nothing but 3:1. So you need to pick values for X and Y which are in the ratio of 3:1. So if you see 21, if Y is 21, then X has to be 63. I don't see 63 here. If Y is 32, then X has to be 96. And I see that value. So I know that Y is 32 and X is 96. Okay. See how simple the question was. Very, very easy question. All you needed to know was this concept of allegations. Allegation, or you can say like mixed average, basically. Okay. So what is the average when two things are mixed together? That's all. And it's so simple a calculation. 4%, 8%, 5%, 1, 3, 3, 1. And you can probably answer this question after reading this question in another 20 seconds. So a total of 1 minute, 20 seconds maybe max time that you need to solve this question. And that easy it is. Now which, and if you see, the only difference between this question and a quant question is that they have not, instead of in the quant question, probably in one of the options, let's say option A, the value would be written as, okay, X equal to 96 and Y equal to 32. That's all. Instead of that, instead of an MCQ, you have to pick the answer from a table. You have to select something from one column, select something from another column. So that is the only difference between a TPA question and probably a quant question. Again, I'm only talking about the quantitative type of questions basically in TPA. There is another type which is CR, and in CR also that's the only difference. There is an option that you have to pick in a CR question, and in a CR TPA question you will need to select two values from two columns. So you don't need any special preparation from TPA for TPA at all. You just need to understand that I need to pick one value from one column, one value from another column. See how simple that was. Did you get this point right? Did you understood this point, that for TPA you don't need any additional preparation if you have prepared for quant and critical reasoning? Is that point clear to you? Quick yes, no, guys. Is that point clear to you? Quick yes, no, guys. And again, if we do the mapping between the prerequisites that we talked about, what are the things that we are using here? We are using the skills of average. We are using the skill of translation. We are using the skill of reading data. That's all. And a bit of calculations maybe, right? All of that you learned in quant and verbal. Simple, right? So you don't need any specific preparation for TPA. Just make sure you understand that you have to pick one value from one chart column, one value from another column. So it's very simple if you do quant and verbal. Now with that, let's move to the next question type, which is graphical interpretation. Now what are the graph types which are tested in GMAT IR? Line graphs, bar graphs, pie charts, flow charts, scattered plots. Multiple options are there. But all of this, what you need to understand here, the main skill is data reading. Okay, so you have to read data, you have to understand which data to use. You have to be smart about reading data and understand which data point to use. That's all. So other than that, it's again quant at the end of the day. Let's solve a question. Okay, this is a question in front of you. I want you guys, I'm giving you guys 2 minutes to solve this question. Official graphical interpretation question of data insights. Okay, all the best, guys. You have a couple of minutes. You'll probably not need a couple of minutes, but you have a couple of minutes to solve it. All right, guys. If you have answered the question, you can start typing your answers in the chat here. Really happy to hear that. Again, in the interest of time, I'll be solving this question with you. Now, let's solve this question. In the diagram, 14 nodes are represented by circles. So these circles are nodes, and relationship among the nodes are indicated by arrows. Each arrow points from one node, the parent node, to the another node, which is the child node. Okay, so the arrow is starting from a parent node and it's going to a child node. That is what I want to need to understand. Okay, let me not write it here. Let me write it over here. So if there is an arrow pointed from one node to another node, the one where it is originating from, it's known as the parent node. The other, which is it going to, it's known as the child node. Okay, that's all. A positive value in numerical value is assigned to each node, so that the value assigned to a parent node is exactly double the value assigned to its child node. So parent, if child is assigned x, then parent would be 2x. That's all. The nodes A to through E are principal nodes. So these are my principal nodes basically. Okay, these ones are my principal nodes. Okay, what is the question asking? The value assigned to the principal node labeled something must exactly be double the value assigned to the principal node labeled something. So what I need to know is that which principal node is double of the value of the other one. Now, to solve this question, you have to be smart about where to start and all. So if I see in the center, one thing which connects almost all the nodes, one node which connects almost all the nodes, that's what this question is all about. You have to pick this node, which is basically connecting every node, every other node. So if I pick this as x, this being the child node, this is the parent of it. So this will be 2x. This will again be 2x. Now, if this is 2x, then the arrow is going from here to here. That means this is the child. So it should be half of it. So this is x. If this is x, then E is also 2x. E is 2x. So B, C, E are exactly same. I know B, C, E are all equal to 2x. Okay, let's move further then. This is 2x, this is the parent, this should be 4x. This is 4x, then this should be the parent, this should be 8x. Okay, let's move further here. We have to also find the value of D. So if this is 2x, this is 4x, this is 8x, and this is 16x. So clearly 16x is D is 16x and A is 8x. So parent node D must be exactly double of that of A. Okay, so that's the answer. Now you look at this question, how simple this question is. What is this question really testing you on? This question is testing you on only one small thing, your understanding of ratios, right? 1:2. That's all. You need to, yes, you need to be more logical. You need to be very logical in solving this question. So GMAT is telling, like, GMAT might classify this as a logical question type more than quant. But what I mean to tell here is that you don't need any additional conceptual knowledge. If you know basics of quant, you're good at calculations, you'll be able to get these questions right. The only thing you need to do is do practice, right? You don't need to kind of do anything else. You need to just practice these type of questions. If you're practicing these type of questions, you will be able to do them. You don't need any other skill as such. So all you need here for this graphical analysis, apart from the quant skills, is the practice part. And in GMAT Viz, we have already added a lot of questions on IR, and we are continuously adding more questions of IR. You will find it in the course tab with video solutions to teach you how to solve these type of questions in a smart way as well. Okay, so practicing is going to be sufficient for you in that case. Now, again, if I am comparing this, the only thing which is tested here is like understanding of percentages or ratios is what you can call it. I use percentages and ratios at the same level. It is testing your calculations, it's testing your deduction skills. Translation is not really tested here. So again, same quant skills. Another question, graphical insights. Now this question is a chart based question. You have a graph, a line chart is what they call it. And again, I'll still give you a couple of minutes to solve this. So you can take a couple of minutes. I'm going to be on mute and then we'll solve this question together. But the main idea is to help you understand how to prepare. So I'll come to that conclusion after this question also. So all the best. Take your time, 2 minutes to solve this. All right. So again, most of you have solved this question. So let's quickly solve it. Again, most of you are right. The answer is C. Yes. And that's easy. Again, another easy question. So if you see, this question is saying what is the percentage change from 12 to 16? So in 12 years, the basically 12 let's say 12, 16, and 20. Let's write it down over here. This is around 1,000. This is around 3,000. And around 20, it's somewhere close to 5,200. Let's say that way. Okay. It's not 5,000. It's not 6,000. It's like almost 5,200 is how I'll put it. Now, what is the percentage change here? Close to 200. That's simply 3,000 minus 1,000 by 1,000. So that's basically 200% change. Now, what is the percentage change here? Let's calculate it. It's 5,200 minus 3,000 on a base of 3,000. So that's 2,200 by 3,000. That's very, very close to 70%, I would say. Okay. So this change is approximately 70%. Now, how much is 200%? How many times of 200 is 200% of 70%? So that's almost 3 times. Okay. Now tell me which concept is being tested here. What are the skills and what are the concepts being tested here? Okay, guys. So again, we'll do that comparative benchmarking. What are the skills and concepts that are tested here? Let's see who gets this right. Let's see who gets this right. Let's do a mapping, guys. What do you think? What are the skills and the concepts that are tested here? Like, again, topics are nothing but concepts. So what are the skills and concepts that are tested here, guys? Waiting for your responses. Okay, Aline says percentage. Great. That's one of the skills, concepts, right? What are the other things? Percentage. Great, Aditi. Great, D. What about skill sets? What are the skill sets that are tested? Reading data, right? Reading data is important. What else? Reading data, calculations. Great. Calculations are also required, right? But basic calculations, you don't need to do any additional calculations. Deductions, a little bit, I would say, not a lot. There's not a lot of inference to be made. It's mostly percentage, calculations, reading data. That's all. And it's not like you have to read heavy data points, right? It's pretty simple data points that you have to read, right? It's simple enough data points that you have to read. Calculations are not that tricky either. So all you're doing is quantitative reasoning, right? It's all quant. And all you need to do is a little bit of practice working with charts. So do you still think that you should give equal amount of effort to data insights? Do you still think you need to give equal amount of effort to data insights compared to quant as you do to quant? Quick yes, no, guys. Approximations, Aditi, I understand it's not a part of this, but again, it's a part of calculations in a way. So do you still think you need to give equal amount of effort to data insights or even significant amount of effort to data insights? No, right? Till now, no, correct? It's all about quant, a little bit of practice on specific type of questions and you're good. That's all. So till now, that's what we have learned. Let's go to the next question type, right? Many people say, okay, you know what, Piyush, multi-source reasoning is probably the most difficult one. Okay, let's tackle it. Let's see what multi-source reasoning brings to the table. So this is the question. Again, multi-source reasoning questions are difficult to bring on the same page. So what I've done is I've still tried. So the font size is small. In front of you, you have 3 tabs. Like this is tab 1. Like that's what they do. Like this is a fancy question type. There's a lot of information in different tabs. This is tab 2 and this is tab 3. Okay, all the tabs are there. You can read through these tabs. And then there is this one question. Again, the question is actually in this format, in the table format, and you have to select yes and no against each column. But I've just made it simple for you. So you have this question over here. The first line, question one's line 1, only one line. But I wanted to solve this question. I'm giving you maybe a minute or 2 to solve it. And you can let me know what your answer is in the chat. But don't write it right now. Don't type your answers right away. When you're done, keep it with you. I'll ask and then you write down your answers. Okay. So all the best. I'm giving you a couple of minutes to solve this first. All right, guys, those who have solved this question can start posting their answers. Okay, Vivek has already posted the answer as no. What about others? I'll give another 30 seconds maybe for you guys to solve it. But once you solve it, post your answers. Feel free to do so. Okay, Aline says it's yes. So I have one person saying yes, one person saying no. Anirudh saying yes, D saying yes, Aditi saying no. Sibel says yes. So I have a split between yes and no. More people are saying yes than those who are saying no, but still there are people who are saying both of that. Okay. Janvi also says no. Obi says yes. Great. Thank you so much, guys, for your responses. Now let's solve this question. Okay. Now in MSR, one neat trick in some cases where you have less data points, more data points than context is to read the question first. In some cases, you can do that. Okay, but let's try to do that in this case also. Jack joined the bank as an analyst. Okay, when he was 22. So I know he joined as an analyst. He was 22 years old. 1 year later, he asked for promotion to associate. Is it possible that he will be promoted? So I'm looking at promotion to associate. So I need to just look at information in this tab. So I have to be smart about understanding which tab I'm looking at. Okay, so I need to check whether it's possible to promote. He's 1 year later, he's looking at promotion. Okay, candidate will normally have 2 years of experience as an analyst at this bank or other similar bank. So this person is not meeting this criteria. So you might think, okay, he might not be promoted. You might think no is the correct answer. But let's read further. I need to check other conditions also. Candidate must have demonstrated advisory experience on M&A transactions. I don't know about that. Candidate must have the ability to manage analysts and be respected by analysts. Again, I don't know about this. This is don't know. This is don't know. Okay, again, this is maybe. Let's put it this way. I don't know. I have no information. I have no conclusive information. This is conclusive. This is not conclusive. The restriction on number of years as an analyst can be relaxed. Okay, it's again a maybe. Can be relaxed if at least 2 associates recommend the candidates strongly. So it can be done. So what I'm looking at, the question is asking is it possible to promote? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. So those of you who picked the answer as no did not focus on the word possible. If possible was not there, can Jack be promoted? If that is the question. Still, the answer will be yes. Can he be promoted? Yes, he can be promoted. The possibility exists. But we cannot be certain about that. The question is asking the word about possibility. The question is asking about possibility. Okay, now, do you think, guys, what is the skill that is tested here? Again, same question, guys. What is the skill that is tested here? Quickly, guys, what is the skill that is tested? Any conceptual knowledge? Any skill? We had an MSR question in front of us. Critical reasoning, yes. Critical thinking, good. Critical thinking, or what else? Reading data. Yes, Aline, that's great. So you don't have to do anything else. You just have to read the information well. You have to do and think critically. And it's not just reading data here. It is also about reading the text. So over here, what is important is that your RC skills come into picture, your CR skills come into picture. Are you able to understand and retain the right information at the right time? And are you able to critically think? So this is, MSR is more of verbal than of quant. And for that, you technically don't need any additional skill. If you master your verbal reasoning skills very well, you don't have to worry about MSR much. You don't have to. And guys, I'll tell you very openly, I never prepared for IR in my entire life. I only did IR questions when I was solving a mock test. And in the GMAT Classic, I scored a 8 out of 8 in IR. A 8 out of 8 without any prep at all. Why? Because it's quant and verbal. There is nothing else there. There is no rocket science. You just need to be good at reading data. That I totally agree. I am good at reading data. That helped me in IR. If you are from a profession where you don't deal with data at all, yes, you would need to practice IR questions. I'm not saying you don't. But if you are good with quant and verbal, that's pretty much it. You just need to practice the question types. and you don't have to worry about IRM. That's the beauty of GMAT Focus. In a way, it's the same preparation that you need for GMAT Classic. You just need to prepare for quant and verbal. It's just that they have given the benefit that if someone is, let's say, stronger in quant, they will have more reasons to score well, because IR is more of quant than of verbal. So if you're a quant heavy person or a quant, your strength is quant, you're going to benefit from it. That's all. And again, I'm going to prove that again with another question. Again, this was just one line part, one line of the question. There were other 2 lines also, but again, they're testing on the same thing. Now, this is another official IR question, MSR question. Again, what I've done for you is I've taken out the unimportant stuff. And I've just given the information, highlighted information that you need to focus on. There are 2 tabs basically, tab 1 and tab 2. This information was in tab 2. So you have to understand which tab is important, definitely, and which information is important. So this skill of not rejecting what is not important and understanding what is important is a skill that you develop in reading comprehension, because there you learn what is important, what is not important, how to read things, how to understand things. All that skill is developed there. Now, if you do that, answering this question will be like super easy. So I'm still going to give you a minute. You want to solve it, you can solve it. Okay, just read these 2 lines and you will have the answer. I'm 100% certain about it. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1.5 minutes to still solve it, and you tell me what is the answer. You can go ahead and type your answers in the chat whenever you're ready. All right, so I have 3 answers till now: Shikhar, Ellen, and Aditi. And all 3 of you have gotten it right. See, this is how easy it is. So what you need is to understand which data to read, right? I have just done that hard work for you. I have read the entire thing. I've shared which information is important. Again, the first one was not needed. Actually, the first one is probably needed for the next question, but I've kept it still. And you were able to do it. Only thing you needed to do was multiplied 4 by 5 and 5. And you know the answer is 100. That's a very simple calculation. You don't even need to have a amazing quant skills to do that. All you needed to do was to understand and read properly. That's all. The question says 10% shifting, and it's unitary method, right? 10% shifting saves $4 billion in 1 year. So how much 50% shifting will save in 5 years, right? We have to just multiply this 4 with 5 and 5, right? Plain and simple unitary method. You learn this in school, in middle school, not even in high school. That's so simple. All you need to solve this question is nothing but your reading skills. That's all. Not even critical thinking is needed in this question. Now, another question: what percentage of their revenue of their revenue did? So again, you can try to solve this question as well. Like, let me give some time to you. So 30 seconds to solve this question. This is the prompt, basically, and like you have to solve this question together. Over here. Once you solve it, you can start typing your answers as well in the chat. Okay, Vivek says can be determined. Okay, Vivek, think again. Aditi says cannot be determined. Very good, Aditi. Okay, Shikhar says can. Think about it, guys. Again, let's look at the question. For each of the following questions about the railroad company mentioned in the tab, select can be determined if it can be answered solely based on the information provided. Otherwise, say cannot be determined. Okay, what is the question saying? What percentage of their revenue did freight companies spend to maintain? What percentage of their revenue? Okay, let's read the question then. From 1980 to 2009, railroad reinvested approximately 325 billion of their own funds, approximately 30% of their revenue. This tells us approximate percentage. Okay, what percentage of the revenue spent to maintain? Again, that's reinvested. That's okay. Like, reinvesting is about the same thing. So it's not about reinvested amount. It's about the word approximately. The question says it's approximately 30%. The passage or the information given says approximately 30%. It doesn't say exactly what percentage. It could be 31%. It could be 29.8%. I don't know that. But the question is saying what percentage of their revenue? What percentage? That's a deterministic question. This is a deterministic thing. I need to give an exact percentage. I cannot say 30%, right? Because it says approximately it was 30%. I don't know whether it was 30% or not. And the answer, because of that, would be cannot be determined. So again, what skill is tested here? How do we ensure when to take approximation and when not? I've told you that, Vivek, right? Just right now. I don't have to ensure that. It is telling very clearly in the question stem itself, it's saying it's approximate 30%. I cannot say what level of approximation they have done. I have no clue about that. It could be 31%, it could be 32%, it could be 27% also. I don't know what level of approximation they have done. But the question is simply asking what percentage of their revenue they spend. It's a very deterministic question. So it requires you to think critically. And again, you have to be very careful while reading. So this requires, and this is a hard level question. So this requires you to be very careful when you read. So it's more of RC. And again, the same things are tested in RC. In many, many times, you would have seen basically that the same errors are happening in RC. Now, how many of you, let me ask this question in the poll itself, how many of you have made an error in RC because of just one word? How many of you have made an error in RC because of just one word? Quick yes, no, guys. Quick yes, no, guys. How many of you have made an error in a RC question just because of one word? Okay, great. So I see 87% of you saying yes. There is some person who has not made an error in RC till date because of a one word. Good to know that. But again, this is RC. At the end of the day, it's RC. There's nothing else which is needed. Now, Aditi has a point. Aditi says, GMAT usually mentions the word approximate in the question when approximations are okay. I understand when approximations are okay. Here, approximations are not okay, right? They're asking what percentage. That's a specific question. How do you know here that approximations are okay? You don't know that, right? They have said approximately in the question stem, in the passage or the information above. because they are okay with that. They're saying, okay, I don't exactly mind the number. I don't mind telling the exact number. It's approximately 30%. But when they're asking what percentage. That's what you need to understand. At that time, they're interested in knowing the percentage, and that cannot be determined. I don't know from approximate what the percentage was. Thank you, Aditya. Happy to know that you understand this now. Okay, so summarizing everything, we have talked about the 4 question types, right? 2-part analysis. What we saw was this is nothing but quant and verbal. There is no prep, technically no prep whatsoever needed for this. You just have to understand what the question type is testing. You have to just understand the difference between, like, let me say, the prep is all about understanding the difference between an MCQ versus a 2-part analysis, and you have to pick one value from each column. So if you understand that, you have to pick one value from each column instead of an MCQ. That's technically all you need in a TPA. Table analysis, graphical interpretation are similar. Both of them require you to read data, do calculations, and basic concepts of quant. For this, you only need to do some additional practice. You need to practice the kind of questions for both these areas. Nothing else is needed. Multi-source reasoning is all about your RC. If you're weak in RC, you will not do well in multi-source reasoning most likely. And I've seen data where people have actually done very similar, performed very, very similar in both multi-source reasoning and RC, because that's another way of RC, doing RC. It's just data-based or information-based RC rather than inference-based RC. Less of inference, more of data, more of information is what MSR is, and RC is something else. So if you compare everything, what is the prep that you need? You don't need a lot of prep for IR. You don't need a lot of prep for data insight. And that's why I say your preparation sequence should be, you need to learn quant and critical reasoning and a little bit of RC, you can say. So you can add RC over here as well. So you do quant, you do verbal properly first, and that's when you go to IR and DI. And what you pretty much need is just practice. That's all. If you do that right, that's the entire preparation you need for data insights. Okay, so that's the crux of the today's session. How to prepare for DI? The answer is prepare well for quant and verbal and do practice later. That's all you need, guys. That's all you need. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the session. Guys, any questions you have, more than happy to take them up for you guys. If you have any doubts, any questions, feel free to ask them to me. I'm going to be here for a couple of minutes to answer the questions for you guys. And if you want to connect with me, I've already shared the link a little while back, but I'll just quickly share it again. You can schedule a call on my calendar if you want to have a discussion about how our team can help you prepare for GMAT on using this link. Okay, any questions, guys? Feel free to ask me now. So in simple terms, if you want to prepare for DI, prepare well for quant and verbal. That's the main thing. Thank you so much, Sibyl. Happy to hear that that you like the session. Thank you so much. And do check out the GMAT Wiz course as well. If you're not a GMAT Wiz student, it will really help you prepare for the GMAT Focus Edition in the best possible way, because we have the best content in terms of teaching students how to solve questions in a systematic fashion and the right representation of all different type of questions. So do check it out, and I'm sure you'll love it. Okay, thanks for the time, D. Learned a lot. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Really happy to hear the feedback. I have one for table analysis. Okay, what's the question, Vivek? Please ask me. Thank you so much, Maria. Happy to know that session held. And feel free to connect with me, guys, if you have any other questions. Even if you're not able to ask today, you want to ask later, feel free to reach out. Always happy to connect with students. And that's something which I love about my job, actually. Thank you so much. For questions that say the value of, say, one column is directly proportional to other column. Okay. Thank you for the session. Makes me feel less nervous about DI. Yes, Aditi, I totally understand. And there's a lot of information, misinformation, which is going around. That's why I wanted to clear that out. DI is simple. Don't worry. Okay. So Vivek, I probably need to have a look at a question that you're talking about, but I'll try to see for questions that say the value of one column is directly proportional to the other column. Let's say there are 8 shifts happening. So probably Vivek, if you want, you can post this doubt in the platform directly, maybe on a question or just on a video on date table analysis. So you can go to the course tab and navigate to the IR part of the course, go to table analysis and post this doubt on the forum. That way you'll be able to detail out. And if you have a question, you can just take a mention about the question there as well. That way we can look at it in much more depth. Okay, that will be a better platform because I'm not understanding the question very well here. So probably you can do that. All right. So thank you so much, guys. I don't see any other question around it. So I understand you might have gotten a question wrong because of this, but it's important to understand what is the question really testing you on. If you understand what is the question really testing you on, then it becomes easy to answer. So definitely ask this doubt, and we'll definitely help you out with that way overall. But thank you so much, guys, for being here today. I hope you got a lot of amazing insights about the data insights section. And all the best for your preparation, and do check out GMAT, where we really do a great job at helping students understand even the most complex topics in the simplest way. So that's the key thing that we do at GMAT. All the best, guys. Thank you so much.